everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the inner workings of a tech company.
Ooh, this should be interesting.
Yeah, we've got some pretty cool source material for this one. We'll be listening in on a conversation between Sarah and Mark.
Two colleagues at a fast-paced tech company.
Exactly. They're good friends, too, which I think adds a whole other layer to this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Workplace friendships can be so powerful. They can help you get through those tough projects and tight deadlines.
For sure, and I think we'll see a lot of that in this conversation. So the scene opens with Sarah and Mark working on a project that's got a deadline looming.
Classic tech scenario.
Right. And Mark is wrestling with some code that's just not behaving. And you can tell it's starting to get to him. You know that feeling when you've been staring at the same lines of code for hours and you just can't figure out what's wrong?
Ugh, tell me about it. I've been there too many times.
Well, Sarah, being the awesome friend and colleague, she picks up on Mark's frustration and steps in.
It's all about that teamwork.
Totally. She suggests that he steps back and looks at the bigger picture.
Which is sometimes easier said than done when you're in the thick of it.
Absolutely. But her point is that sometimes when you're hyper-focused on one specific problem, you miss other potential issues that might be contributing to it.
It's like having tunnel vision.
Exactly. She also suggests checking the logs for any bottlenecks, which is such a valuable tip.
Oh, yeah. Checking the logs is like looking under the hood of your application. It can reveal so much information about what's really going on.
Right. It's like a detective looking for clues, except the clues are lines of code.
I love that analogy. So we see Sarah helping Mark with his problem-solving skills, but then she drops another gem on us, her approach to multitasking.
She's like a productivity ninja,
Seriously. She starts each day by listing her top 3 priorities,
which creates a clear roadmap for her day.
and then she slots in smaller tasks around those core priorities.
It's a really smart way to stay organized and avoid feeling overwhelmed by that never-ending to-do list.
Definitely. It's all about prioritizing and being strategic with your time.
And you know what I really appreciated? She acknowledges that we all feel the pressure to be perfect.
Oh yeah, especially in a fast-paced environment like tech.
But she offers a more realistic alternative.
Which is,
She says sometimes some tasks just need to be good enough.
whoa, that's a revolutionary concept for some people.
Oh, no, right? It's so freeing to hear someone say that out loud. It's like she's giving us permission to let go of that need to be perfect all the time.
It's about focusing on excellence where it counts and letting go of the need to be perfect in every single thing you do.
Exactly. And I think that's such a valuable lesson for anyone, no matter what field you're in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got problem solving and multitasking covered.
Now let's add a little spice to the mix with some office dynamics.
Ooh, this is where things get interesting.
Enter Emily, the new hire, who's already making waves.
The coding prodigy.
Yeah. Word on the street is she optimized a client system in her first week.
Talk about making a good first impression.
Right. And it seems like her arrival has sparked a little friendly competition, too.
I hear she challenged Steve, another developer, to a coding contest.
Now that's what I call healthy competition.
It's a great way to stay sharp and learn from each other.
Totally. So we've got problem solving, multitasking, office gossip, and a little bit of friendly rivalry.
Sounds like a typical day at the office.
Pretty much. But now let's shift gears to a topic that I think we can all relate to. Work-life balance.
The eternal struggle.
Right. And Mark admits that he's been having trouble with work following him home. You know, that feeling of never being able to fully switch off?
Oh, I know it all too well.
Yeah.
It's like your mind is constantly running through your to-do list, even when you're supposed to be relaxing.
Exactly. But thankfully, Sarah has some great advice on setting boundaries.
I'm all ears.
She believes in dedicating yourself fully while you're at work, but then truly disconnecting when you're off duty.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about creating that mental separation between work life and personal life.
And you know what else I love? She doesn't shame Mark for his late-night gaming sessions.
Really? I thought those were frowned upon in the tech world.
Well, Sarah actually reframes it as a form of self-care.
Interesting. So she's saying that it's okay to have those activities that help you de-stress and recharge, even if they don't seem very productive on the surface.
Exactly. It's all about giving yourself permission to enjoy those things guilt-free.
I like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of self-care, Sarah mentions her go-to stress reliever, yoga.
She even invites Mark to join her for a session sometime.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
It's great that she's encouraging him to try something new that might help him manage stress.
And, you know, as their conversation continues, you can really see how their friendship is a source of strength as they navigate the pressure of this deadline.
I think that's so important to have someone you can vent to when things get tough. Someone who gets it.
Absolutely. It's like having a built-in support system at work.
Agreed. So they're supporting each other through this intense project.
Mm.
But then their conversation takes an interesting turn.
They start talking about their future aspirations.
Ooh, I love this part.
Me too. Sarah reveals that she's been thinking about moving into a leadership role.
Like managing a team or something.
Yeah, she even mentions the possibility of starting her own agency one day.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to hear her talk about it with such passion.
Definitely. And hearing Sarah talk about her dreams seems to spark something in Mark, too,
He shares his interest in diving deeper into AI and machine learning.
which is such a hot topic right now.
Totally. But he admits that he hasn't taken any concrete steps towards that goal yet.
Well, it's one thing to have an interest and another to actually pursue it.
Right. And that's where Sarah's advice comes in.
What does she say?
She encourages him to start small.
Like what kind of small steps?
She suggests maybe taking an online course or joining a coding meetup.
Those are great ideas. It's all about taking those initial steps, even if they seem small.
Exactly. It's about building momentum and gaining confidence along the way.
I love that. And that's where we'll leave Sarah and Mark for now.
We'll dive into more of their insights in the next part of our deep dive.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break. Welcome back to our deep dive. I don't know about you, but listening to Sarah and Mark makes me want to go hang out with my work friends.
Right. It's like we're right there with them grabbing a coffee in the break room.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, one thing that really stood out to me was how Sarah approaches problem solving.
Yeah, she seems to have a knack for it.
Remember when Mark was stuck on that buggy code
Uh-huh.
and she told him to step back and look at the bigger picture?
Yeah, that was a great piece of advice.
Because sometimes when you're so focused on the details, you lose sight of the overall context.
It's like you can't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly. And that can really hinder your ability to solve problems effectively.
So her advice is to zoom out and consider all the factors that might be at play.
Right, like the dependencies,
Yeah.
the external factors, the bigger picture.
And that can help you identify the root cause of the problem instead of just treating the symptoms.
It's like a doctor trying to diagnose a patient. You have to consider the whole person, not just their individual symptoms.
It's a great analogy. And you know what else I noticed about Sarah?
What's that?
She's not afraid to ask for help when she needs it.
Yeah, I was impressed by that too.
Remember how she was talking about a design challenge she was facing?
Uh,
And she reached out to a colleague in a different department for some advice?
that's a sign of a good leader.
It shows that she recognizes the value of collaboration and that she's not afraid to admit when she doesn't have all the answers.
It also shows that she trusts and values her colleagues.
Exactly. And you know what else is great about Sarah?
What?
She's a master of prioritization.
Oh yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Remember her system of listing her top 3 priorities each day?
Uh-huh.
I think that's such a brilliant strategy.
It helps you focus on what's truly important and avoid getting bogged down in the minutia.
And it prevents you from feeling overwhelmed by that never-ending to-do list.
Definitely. And you know what else is important?
What's that?
Setting boundaries between work and personal life.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about work-life balance.
Remember how Mark was struggling with that?
Yeah, he felt like he could never truly switch off.
And Sarah gave him some great advice about creating that mental separation,
She believes in giving it your all while you're at work,
but then completely disconnecting when you're off duty.
so that you can recharge and come back to work feeling refreshed.
And you know what else I love about Sarah?
What's that?
She doesn't judge Mark for his late-night gaming sessions.
Yeah, she actually reframes it as a form of self-care.
Which I think is so important,
Because we all need those activities that help us de-stress and recharge.
even if they don't seem very productive on the surface.
Exactly. And you know what else Sarah does that I admire?
What's that?
She's always encouraging Mark to grow and learn.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Like when they were talking about AI and machine learning.
Uh-huh.
And she encouraged him to take an online course or join a coding meetup.
She's a great mentor.
She is. And I think that's so valuable to have someone in your corner who believes in you and supports your ambitions.
Definitely. It can make a world of difference.
So, yeah, I'm really enjoying listening to Sarah and Mark's conversation.
Me too. They're full of wisdom and insights.
And I think they're a great example of how to navigate the modern workplace with grace and success.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive.
Time to wrap things up with Sarah and Mark.
I feel like we should be taking notes.
Seriously, so much good stuff in here.
Like, remember when Sarah was talking about stepping back to look at the bigger picture?
Oh yeah, when Mark was hitting that wall with his code.
It's such a simple concept, but so powerful.
It's easy to get lost in the weeds, you know?
Totally. You get so focused on the immediate problem that you miss the bigger context.
And then you end up spinning your wheels and getting nowhere.
Exactly.
But when you take that step back,
You can see things from a fresh perspective.
And suddenly the solution becomes clear.
That's like magic.
And you know what else I love about Sarah? She's such a team player.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like when she was talking about that design challenge she was facing, and she reached out to a colleague in a different department for advice.
She wasn't afraid to ask for help.
Not at all. She recognized that her colleague had expertise that she could benefit from.
And that's a sign of a great leader.
I think so too. Knowing when to seek out help from others.
It's a superpower.
And speaking of superpowers,
What's that?
Sarah's ability to set boundaries is pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah. She's all about that work-life balance.
Remember how she was talking about disconnecting completely from work when she's off duty?
Like a digital detox.
Exactly. No checking emails, no taking calls, just pure relaxation and rejuvenation.
I need to get better at that.
Me too. It's so easy to get sucked back into work mode even when you're supposed to be off.
Especially in today's always connected world.
Right. But Sarah makes it seem so effortless.
She's like the queen of boundaries.
And you know what else I admire about her? She doesn't judge Mark for his late-night gaming sessions.
Yeah, she actually sees them as a form of self-care.
Which I think is so refreshing.
Because let's be real, we all need those activities that help us de-stress and unwind.
Whether it's gaming, reading, listening to music, or whatever brings you joy.
As long as it helps you recharge and come back to work feeling energized.
Exactly. And you know what I really loved about this whole conversation?
What's that?
It was so inspiring to hear Sarah and Mark talk about their future aspirations.
Yeah, they both have such ambitious goals.
Sarah wants to move into a leadership role.
Maybe even start her own agency one day.
And Mark is fascinated by AI and machine learning.
It's great that they're both so passionate about their work.
And that they're not afraid to dream big.
It gives me hope for the future.
Me too. And you know what Sarah's advice to Mark about starting small?
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
It's a reminder that we don't have to make drastic changes overnight to achieve our goals.
We can start with small, manageable steps.
And gradually build momentum over time.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by your goals,
Break them down into smaller chunks.
and focus on taking one step at a time.
You'll be amazed at how far you can go.
And that's our deep dive into the world of Sarah and Mark.
So many great insights and takeaways,
I hope you enjoyed listening as much as we did.
and that you feel inspired to apply some of their wisdom to your own work life.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep dreaming big.